Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It has been the hottest of minutes since I did anything vocal because I am, unsurprisingly to myself, a procrastinator, huge procrastinator. I have been playing video games rather than doing videos. And honestly I think that's fair, but I have some that I want to get done, but I currently have the wild hair to do a few videos about music, specifically video game music. So that's what we're going to start with today. And there might be at least one more in the near future. But I recently got the Transistor vinyl, and it is just a gorgeous little set. I love that thing. I'll include a picture as long as I remember. Looks aside though, it's easily one of my favorite video game albums of all time, if not one of my favorite sets of music, just in general. While I do love the vocal tracks and the background music tracks on the album that I got, the vinyl, I found myself missing one particular thing: the humming. If you're not familiar, Transistor has a function where you're able to press a button in almost any situation outside of combat after a certain point, which brings the lights down, and Red, the character, hums just a little melody along with the background music. And the hummed versions of the songs are available to listen to on most streaming services as part of the soundtrack's extended version, not the normal version or the version that's currently on vinyl. I find myself listening to the hummed versions more than the bass soundtrack, specifically because it's just so satisfying to hum along with them. So I wanted to talk a little bit about just the magic that is those extended soundtrack versions from the Transistor soundtrack. Even more specifically, I'm going to touch on the inspiration for the music and then talk about the pieces themselves and why they just hit different. Until really thinking about this video, I had given precisely zero consideration about what may have inspired Transistor's music. Honestly, I was just busy vibing to the music and doing my own thing. Either way, in an interview with The Gamer, Darren Korb, the composer of Transistor, said that Radiohead's album OK Computer was a major inspiration for the music. Now, I had never heard of this album before, just period. I'm familiar with Radiohead, love several of their songs, but I never really pay attention to the albums that songs are from, necessarily. However, once I listen to this album, I can 100% see where the inspiration came from. For example, that article mentioned Radiohead's song Exit Music, which has a section with a synthy, blown out bass line that is really reminiscent of Transistor's intro piece, Old Friends. Check it out.
Chill. Such a chill.
You could almost kind of overlay the pieces together and they would work just so complementary with one another. And Red hums along with a similar note to what the lyrics in Exit Music start back up with. I think that's really a nice little connection.
Chill. Such a chill.
You can also hear some of the DNA of Radiohead's Lucky in both Signals and We All Become from Transistor.
out beyond the edge and start the motion. Look out below.
I really like how the beginning of both Lucky and Signals have that like slow, somber guitar with like sparse lyrics. If I understood music like a little better, I could probably explain how the notes are similar, but it's kind of just like a vibe. That's about the only way I can explain it. But then near the end of Lucky, the structure is similar to the end of We All Become, I think. Like the singer ends the phrase with what sounds like a minor key note. There's a slightly low key music break that's like the glue between the two pieces. And then they come back in just belting away. And then both songs after that just resolve quietly. Darren Korb also did a couple of interviews with Nintendo Life and Audio and Music Blog, where he talked about another inspiration, which was Led Zeppelin, specifically some of the more acoustic tracks. I'm not going to compare any of Transistor's pieces with Led Zeppelin like I did with Radiohead, because I want to compare Transistor with something else, Diablo and Diablo 2. Now, when I was listening to some of Transistor's music, it really felt like it was giving Diablo. And I wondered if Darren Korb had been inspired by that music as well. Not saying he wasn't, I don't actually know, because I haven't found anywhere where he has said. But as it turns out, Matt Ullman, I think his name, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'll put it up on screen, someone's gonna have to tell me. He is Diablo's composer, and Darren Korb, the two of them have listed Led Zeppelin as inspirations for their acoustic work. You can hear a bit of how they got inspiration from the same source when you compare Tristram from Diablo 2 or even Rogue Encampment to some of Transistor's music, such as Stained Glass and Gateless. It might be a bit of a stretch, but I feel like you can hear a similar overlaid, folksy guitar theme between them. I was really just amazed to find out that composers from two of my favorite games ever were inspired by the same artist, and even more specifically by the folk guitar played by that same artist rather than the, more common rock that you would expect from Led Zeppelin. Anyway, my original thesis of this entire video, when I had drafted it was to talk about the hummed versions of the music from Transistor, so we're gonna switch gears and talk about that. As I said, I love the hummed tracks, and I'm definitely not the only one. Back in 2014, Darren Korb wrote a blog post for PlayStation Blog where he talked about his inspirations and how he kind of zeroed in on the soundtrack. He said that the studio director, Amir Rao, again I hope that's how it's pronounced, came up with the idea of the hummed tracks, and it looks like they were able to implement it by layering the music and cutting bits in and out depending on what's going on, such as being in turn mode or choosing to hum. If you don't know what turn mode is, it's something in the game, I'm not going to explain it. In the comments, someone specifically asked if these tracks would be available for purchase, and Darren said that he had been getting a lot of requests for those to be made available, which thank God they have. But what is so special about them? Just like anything else, that's going to kind of depend on your own tastes and how you engage with your media and specifically music. I mean, first of all, humming is just one of those like pure expressions of contentment or joy. Like if you're humming, there's a good chance you're not upset or you're trying to hum to cheer yourself up. But either way, if you are a fully passive listener, then you might enjoy them if you like the added depth it provides to the original track because it's adding a new melody. For me and probably many others, it's that plus the fact that it gives you, the listener, something to do. Not only does it add the additional flair, the additional melody to the original track, it gives you a roadmap to sing along with. Just think, how many times have you hummed along to a song because you either couldn't or didn't want to fully sing along? Maybe you're on the subway and singing would disturb other people minding their own business, or you just aren't much of a singer to begin with. Having one of those songs on just allows you to just gently follow along with the music. In a way, it does, I kind of alluded to this a minute ago, it kind of harkens back to sing-alongs. The vibe is kind of like adult coloring book, but make it music. And plus, there's just something so approachable to humming. This is where I think the magic of it all lies in these hummed versions. The vocal complexity of each piece is generally within a pretty safe range, and there's a different kind of flavor depending on what your mood is. For example, listen to Coasting and Sandbox. Now, I certainly can't hit all those notes, but they're so nice to just have on while you're, I don't know, doing the dishes or hanging out outside on a nice day. They're just like nice, summery vibes, and even better is that you don't have to memorize words. You just kind of go along with the flow and the music and let it out. That, I think, is another crucial aspect of what makes these so accessible. It's certainly easy enough to memorize lyrics, but from my own experience, paying attention to the lyrics does sort of take my brain away from the music itself, and it does give me something to do, but it requires more effort and thought, and in a way, kind of more stress as well. I've definitely found myself surprised as well when listening to a song for which I know the lyrics by heart, but kind of ignored the music. In those situations, I'm kind of like, oh, I guess there is kind of a nice bass beat behind these notes that I had been singing along to, but I just hadn't really paid attention before. But you don't have to worry about that here with these hummed tracks. Also, speaking of personal experience, it's hard to pinpoint what my favorite pieces even are because it really depends on my mood. I would say overall there are probably three favorites, which are Old Friends, Gateless, and Sandbox. I think I probably have the strongest emotional attachment to Old Friends because of how and when you see it when you're playing the game. Old Friends, I think, is the first piece that you hear at all in the entire game, other than maybe some background music at the very beginning or during the menu. And it's also alongside one of Transistor's. They've just got these beautiful illustrated still images kind of sprinkled throughout the game.
Hey, Red. We're not gonna get away with this, are we? Come on, pull. There.
In this scene, you're standing over your dead but still kind of alive lover, and you're starting your journey through the game for the first time. It's just such an emotional track, and every once in a while, I find myself having a hard time humming along for the entire time because I just end up getting choked up. Literally today, coming back from getting groceries, I was humming along to it in the car, and I was like, I had to stop halfway through because I just got that little voice crack because I was getting all emotional. And also in this song, the hummed notes they just feel like a distillation of the entire game's story. And I really can't explain that other than just to say it's a vibe. Everything's just kind of a vibe with this. Gateless is similar because it's nice and somber, but I think it's also a transition song between areas, whereas Sandbox is, like I said before, just a cool, relaxing little piece to kind of chill out to, or to just have on in the background when you're doing something else. And honestly, that's pretty much what I had to say about this. I know I would recommend anyone play the game and listen to both versions of the album, and especially as you're playing through the game, take the opportunity to, when you're at least able to hit the hum button and just kind of experience that section of the world along with Red's humming and just singing along to the extent that she is able to, given the story of the game. It really is just such masterful work. And I always find myself, whenever I'm listening to one of the versions on the regular album, wondering well, where's Red? Why isn't she singing along to this? And where's the hummed melody in the foreground of it? So I do strongly recommend this version. And I would love also to hear from anyone that's had a similar experience with the soundtrack, or really just anyone who likes the soundtrack or Transistor in general. Love to hear any comments about any of the above. Easily a top 50 game of all time, which is saying a lot because I've played hundreds and hundreds of games over my 86 years of life. Either way, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in whatever I decide to cover next.